The gunshot echoed across the dusty yard as Elizabeth Garner pressed herself against the rough wooden wall of the barn, her heart pounding like a locomotive. Blood from a small cut on her forehead trickled down her face as she watched the larger of the two thieves crumple to the ground, clutching his shoulder and howling in pain. "Step away from the lady," a deep voice commanded from the barn doorway. "Unless you're looking to match your friend there." Elizabeth squinted through the hazy afternoon light to see a tall figure silhouetted against the sun, rifle raised and steady. The remaining thief, a wiry man with yellowed teeth, raised his hands slowly. "We didn't mean no harm," he stammered, his eyes darting between his wounded partner and the newcomer. "Funny way of showing it," the stranger replied, advancing into the barn. His spurs jingled with each deliberate step. When he came into view, Elizabeth saw a man perhaps a few years older than her 22 years, with sun-weathered skin and eyes the color of a summer storm. He gestured with his rifle toward the barn entrance. "Get your friend and clear out. Don't let me see either of you within 10 miles of this place again." The thief didn't need to be told twice. He helped his moaning companion to his feet, and they stumbled out into the blinding Montana sunlight. Only when they had disappeared from sight did the stranger lower his weapon and turn to Elizabeth. "You're safe with me, miss," he said, his voice gentler now. "The name's Liam Yates. I work the ranch over the ridge." Elizabeth smoothed her dirt-stained dress with trembling hands. "Elizabeth Garner. Thank you, Mr. Yates." It was 1879, and Elizabeth had been managing her father's small homestead alone for nearly 3 months since his passing. The two thieves had come claiming to be travelers seeking work. When she declined their services, they'd followed her to the barn where she'd gone to feed the horses, cornering her with demands for money and valuables. "You're bleeding?" Liam observed, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket and offering it to her. "It's nothing," Elizabeth replied, though she accepted the cloth and pressed it to her forehead. "They pushed me, and I struck the edge of the stall." Liam's jaw tightened. Cowards, preying on a woman alone. He glanced around the barn, taking in the neatly swept floor and well-maintained equipment. "You run this place by yourself?" Elizabeth nodded. "Since my father passed in April, I've managed well enough until today." "You've done more than manage," Liam said, genuine admiration in his voice. "But those men might return with friends." "I have a shotgun in the house," Elizabeth said defensively. "Father taught me to use it." A smile tugged at the corner of Liam's mouth. "I don't doubt your capabilities, Miss Garner. But perhaps I could check on you tomorrow? Make sure they haven't come back." Elizabeth considered his offer. She'd learned to be wary of men's intentions since finding herself alone, but there was something in Liam Yates' straightforward gaze that inspired trust. "That would be kind of you, Mr. Yates." "Liam," he corrected. "If I'm to be checking on you, seems we should be on familiar terms." "Elizabeth, then," she replied, feeling a curious warmth despite the fright she'd just experienced. True to his word, Liam returned the next day and the day after that. Each visit had its practical purpose, helping to mend a fence, shoeing her horse, fixing a leak in the roof, but Elizabeth found herself looking forward to his company as much as his assistance. "You don't talk much about yourself," she observed one afternoon in late July as they sat on the porch, taking a break from the relentless summer heat. She handed him a glass of lemonade, watching as he drank deeply. "Not much to tell," Liam replied, setting down the glass. "Been working ranches since I was 15. Came west from Missouri after the war took my pa. Worked my way up to foreman at the Clayton place." "Clayton? Harold Clayton?" Elizabeth asked, surprised. "He has quite a reputation." Liam's expression darkened slightly. "Earned every bit of it, too. Hard man, but fair enough if you do your job." "And do you? Do your job?" A genuine smile spread across his face. Yes, madam. Best horseman in the territory, if you don't mind my saying. Quite the boast, Elizabeth teased. I'd have to see that for myself. Is that an invitation, Miss Garner? Liam asked, his eyes twinkling. Perhaps it is, Mr. Yates. The next Sunday, Liam arrived on a magnificent chestnut stallion, and Elizabeth watched in genuine amazement as he demonstrated a series of intricate maneuvers. The horse responded to the slightest touch, turning on a dime and changing pace with fluid grace. Impressed? Liam asked, dismounting with easy confidence. Moderately, Elizabeth replied, though her smile gave her away. But now you must let me show you something. She led him to the small apple orchard behind the house, where the summer fruit hung heavy on the branches. Father planted these when I was born. Said he wanted something that would grow alongside me. They've done well, Liam commented, looking up at the healthy trees. So have I, Elizabeth said quietly. Though I miss him terribly. What was he like? Liam asked, genuine interest in his voice. Elizabeth found herself telling Liam about her father, his strength, his kindness, his determination to carve out a life for them after her mother died in childbirth. She spoke of lessons learned and hardships overcome, surprised at how easily the memories flowed in Liam's presence. He'd be proud of you, Liam said when she finished. Continuing on here, despite everything. I'm not sure how much longer I can, Elizabeth admitted, the worry she'd been carrying finally finding voice. The bank in town. They're pressing about the mortgage. Father borrowed to expand the orchard last year. Liam was quiet for a moment. How much time do you have? Until harvest. If it's good, I might manage another payment. If not. She left the sentence unfinished. I could help, Liam offered immediately. I've saved some. No, Elizabeth interrupted firmly. I couldn't accept that. But thank you for offering. The weeks passed, and Liam's visits became a regular part of Elizabeth's life. Sometimes he brought supplies from town, sugar, coffee, or other items too heavy for her to carry easily. Other times he simply arrived with stories about the Clayton Ranch or news from beyond their valley. Elizabeth found herself watching the road for his approach, her heart quickening at the sight of his tall figure on horseback. They developed a comfortable rhythm, working side by side on various projects, talking or sometimes just enjoying each other's company in companionable silence. Why aren't you married? Elizabeth asked one evening as they sat watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple. The question had been on her mind for weeks. Liam seemed surprised by her directness. Never found the right woman, I suppose. Or perhaps I did. But the timing wasn't right. And now? Elizabeth asked, her voice softer than she intended. Liam turned to look at her, his gaze intense. Now I'm beginning to wonder if maybe the timing is finally right after all. The harvest came, bringing with it long days of hard work. Liam appeared each evening after his duties at the Clayton Ranch, helping Elizabeth gather and sort the apples. With his assistance, she managed to prepare a larger shipment than she'd hoped for. We should celebrate, Liam declared after loading the last crate onto the wagon for tomorrow's trip to town. Your father would be proud. Elizabeth felt a surge of gratitude so strong it nearly overwhelmed her. We should, she agreed. Come for dinner tomorrow? After I've been to town. I'd be honored, Liam replied with a smile that warmed her more than the evening's bonfire. The next day, Elizabeth drove her wagon into Silverdale, the small town that served as the commercial hub for the surrounding ranches and farms. She sold her apples to the general store for a fair price and headed directly to the bank. Mr. Pearson, the bank manager, counted her payment with a thin smile. This is good, Miss Garner, but still short of what's required. Elizabeth's heart sank. But I've brought more than last time. Surely that counts for something? Business is business, Pearson replied coldly. Unless you can make up the difference by the end of the month, I'm afraid foreclosure proceedings will begin. Dejected, Elizabeth completed her errands and started home. The thought of losing her father's land, the only home she'd ever known, was almost unbearable. How would she tell Liam? As she approached her property, Elizabeth noticed something odd. Smoke was rising from her chimney, though she'd banked the fire before leaving. And there was another wagon in the yard, one she didn't recognize. Fear gripped her. Had the thieves returned? She slowed her horses, considering whether to approach or seek help, when the front door opened and Liam stepped out, followed by a gray-haired man in an expensive suit. "Elizabeth," Liam called, waving. "You're back earlier than I expected." She pulled the wagon to a stop, confusion evident on her face. "What's happening? Who is this?" The older man stepped forward, extending his hand. "Harold Clayton, Miss Garner. I've heard a great deal about you from young Yates here." Elizabeth shook his hand automatically, her mind racing. "Mr. Clayton, I don't understand." "I've taken the liberty of showing Mr. Clayton your orchard," Liam explained, an excited edge to his voice. "Tell her your proposal, sir." Clayton cleared his throat. "I've been looking to diversify my holdings, Miss Garner. Cattle are profitable but volatile. Your apple trees, they're exceptional. I'd like to purchase your entire harvest for the next 5 years, at a premium, with an advance payment today." Elizabeth stared at them both, speechless. "Enough to clear your debt at the bank," Liam added softly. "And then some. But why would you do this?" Elizabeth asked Clayton directly. The rancher glanced at Liam with a knowing look. "Let's just say my foreman can be very persuasive when he believes in something. Or someone." He pulled an envelope from his coat. "The contract is inside. Take your time reviewing it. I'll send a wagon for the apples tomorrow if we have a deal." After Clayton departed, Elizabeth turned to Liam, tears threatening. "You did this for me?" "I did it because it makes good business sense," Liam replied, though his eyes told a different story. "Clayton's been looking for new ventures. I just helped him see the opportunity." "Liam Yates," Elizabeth said, stepping closer to him. "You are either the most humble man I've ever met, or the worst liar." A smile broke across his face. "Probably a bit of both." He reached out hesitantly, taking her hand. "I couldn't bear the thought of you losing this place. It's part of you." "Thank you," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "Will you still stay for dinner?" "Try and stop me," he replied. That evening, as they sat at her small kitchen table, Elizabeth felt a shift in their relationship. The meal was simple: roast chicken, potatoes, and fresh bread, but the conversation flowed like wine, rich and intoxicating. They spoke of the future, of possibilities, of dreams long held but rarely voiced. When Liam finally rose to leave, he paused at the door. "I have Sunday off. I thought perhaps, if you're not busy, we might go for a ride. There's a place in the mountains I'd like to show you." "I'd like that," Elizabeth replied, aware of the quickening of her pulse. Sunday dawned clear and bright. Elizabeth wore her best riding dress and pinned her hair carefully, telling herself it was simply practical for a long ride, not a special effort for Liam's benefit. He arrived promptly at 9, leading a gentle mare for her alongside his chestnut stallion. "She's Clayton's daughter's horse," he explained. "Sweetest temperament you'll find." They rode for nearly 2 hours, climbing steadily into the mountains that bordered the valley. The September air was crisp but pleasant, carrying the scent of pine and wild sage. Elizabeth found herself studying Liam's profile against the endless Montana sky, admiring the strength in his shoulders and the gentle way he handled his horse. "Almost there," he called back to her as they crested a ridge. The view that opened before them stole Elizabeth's breath. A hidden valley lay below, untouched and pristine. A small lake reflected the blue sky like a perfect mirror, surrounded by wildflowers that painted the meadow in brilliant yellows and purples. "Liam," Elizabeth gasped. "It's beautiful." He dismounted and helped her down from her horse, his hands lingering at her waist a moment longer than necessary. "Found it my first year here. Never showed it to anyone else." They walked to the edge of the lake, where Liam spread a blanket he'd brought. From his saddlebag, he produced a simple picnic bread, cheese, dried fruit, and a small bottle of wine. "Quite the preparation," Elizabeth noted, settling onto the blanket. "Special occasion," Liam replied with a smile that made her heart flutter. They ate and talked, the conversation wandering through memories and hopes. Elizabeth found herself laughing more than she had in months, perhaps years. When Liam's hand found hers on the blanket between them, she didn't pull away. "I should tell you something," he said finally, his expression growing serious. "I've been offered a position, running a ranch near Bozeman." Elizabeth felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "You're leaving?" "That depends," Liam said, his gaze intent on her face. "On you." "Me?" Liam took a deep breath. "Elizabeth, these past months. Getting to know you, seeing your strength, your kindness, your determination. I've never met anyone like you." Elizabeth could hardly breathe as he continued. "I know it might seem sudden, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He shifted to face her fully. "I love you, Elizabeth Garner. I think I've loved you since that day in the barn, when you stood there with blood on your face and still looked ready to fight those men yourself." A laugh escaped her, part joy and part disbelief. "Hardly my finest moment." "It showed me exactly who you are," Liam countered. "And I've been falling deeper in love with you every day since." "Liam," Elizabeth began, but he gently placed a finger against her lips. "Let me finish, before my courage fails me. The position in Bozeman comes with a house. A good one with plenty of land. Enough for a small orchard, if someone wanted to plant one." His eyes held a question. "I'm asking if you'd consider coming with me, as my wife." The world seemed to still around them as Elizabeth absorbed his words. She thought of her father's homestead, of the life she'd fought to maintain there. But she also thought of the loneliness of the past months, and how Liam's presence had changed everything. "I love my land," she said slowly, watching his expression fall slightly before she continued. "But I've discovered recently that I love you more, Liam Yates." Hope blazed in his eyes. "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes," Elizabeth confirmed, laughing as he pulled her into his arms. Their first kiss was gentle, a tender exploration that quickly deepened into something more urgent. When they finally parted, both were breathless. "I should have done that weeks ago," Liam murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, you should have," Elizabeth agreed with a smile. "We have time to make up for." They spent the rest of the afternoon planning their future, dreaming aloud of the life they would build together. The sun was beginning its descent when they reluctantly packed up the picnic and mounted their horses for the journey home. As they rode side by side down the mountain, Elizabeth felt a sense of rightness settle over her. The loss of her father, the struggle to maintain the homestead alone, all of it had led her to this moment, to Liam. "When would we leave?" she asked as they approached her property. "The position starts in November," Liam replied. "I thought maybe we could be married before then, if that's not too soon." Elizabeth considered the practical aspects. "I'll need to arrange the sale of the property and speak with Mr. Clayton about our contract. He's already agreed to transfer it to the new location," Liam said with a smile. "I may have been presumptuous in my planning." "Very presumptuous," Elizabeth agreed, though she couldn't suppress her smile. "But I appreciate your confidence." They were nearing the house when Elizabeth noticed something amiss. The front door stood ajar, and a horse she didn't recognize was tied to the porch railing. Liam tensed beside her. "Stay back," he warned, reaching for the rifle in his saddle holster. "It could be a neighbor," Elizabeth suggested, though uneasiness crept up her spine. "Let me check," Liam insisted, dismounting and approaching the house cautiously. Before he reached the porch, a figure emerged from the doorway. Elizabeth recognized him immediately, the wiry thief from the barn. But now he wasn't alone. 2 other rough-looking men flanked him. "Well, look who it is," the thief called out, his yellowed teeth visible in a malicious grin. "The hero and his lady." Liam raised his rifle. "You're trespassing. Leave now." The thief laughed. "Not until we get what we came for. My shoulder still pains me, something fierce from your bullet. Seems only fair you compensate me." "You'll get nothing but another bullet if you don't clear out," Liam warned, his voice steady despite the 3-to-1 odds. Elizabeth watched in horror as one of the other men moved his hand toward his holster. "Liam!" she cried in warning. What happened next unfolded in a blur of motion. Liam fired a warning shot into the air as Elizabeth urged her horse forward, distracting the thieves momentarily. Taking advantage of their confusion, Liam tackled the nearest man, sending them both tumbling off the porch. Elizabeth wasn't helpless this time. She rode directly at the original thief, forcing him to dive out of her horse's path. The third man drew his pistol, but before he could aim properly, Elizabeth had reached the house. She leapt from her mount and through the open door, racing to where her father's shotgun hung above the fireplace. Outside, she heard the sounds of struggle grunts, curses, and the thud of fists meeting flesh. Her hands trembled as she loaded the shotgun, praying she wouldn't have to use it, but determined to protect Liam if necessary. When she emerged onto the porch, shotgun raised, she found Liam standing over the 3 men, his rifle trained on them. His lip was bleeding, and a bruise was forming on his cheekbone, but he appeared otherwise unharmed. "Elizabeth," he called without taking his eyes off the thieves. "Ride for the Clayton Ranch. Get help." "I'm not leaving you," she replied firmly, keeping the shotgun steady. One of the thieves, seeing her determination, spat on the ground. "This ain't worth dying over. Come on, boys." The original thief protested, but his companions were already backing toward their horses. After a tense moment, he followed, mounting up and glaring at Liam. "This ain't over." "Yes, it is," Liam responded coldly. "Ride out now and don't look back, or I swear the next bullet won't be a warning." They watched as the 3 men galloped away, disappearing down the road toward town. Only when they were out of sight did Elizabeth lower the shotgun, her arms suddenly weak with relief. Liam came to her immediately, checking her for injuries despite his own. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," she assured him, reaching up to touch his swollen lip gently. "But you're not." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "Nothing serious, though I think we should send word to the sheriff in town." They did exactly that, dispatching a ranch hand from the Clayton property with a message describing the thieves. That night, Liam refused to return to his own quarters, instead settling himself on Elizabeth's porch with his rifle across his knees. "This is silly," Elizabeth protested, bringing him a blanket against the evening chill. "They won't come back." "I'm not taking chances," Liam replied stubbornly. "Not with you." Elizabeth sat beside him on the porch swing, leaning her head against his shoulder. "We could be dealing with this our entire lives, you know? You being overprotective, me insisting I can handle myself." Liam chuckled, wincing slightly at the pain in his bruised face. "Sounds like a marriage to me." "A good one, I hope," Elizabeth said softly. "The best," Liam promised, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Silverdale. Harold Clayton stood as Liam's best man, while Elizabeth was attended by Anna Pearson, the bank manager's daughter who had become a friend during Elizabeth's frequent visits to town. The ceremony was simple but meaningful, with Elizabeth wearing her mother's wedding dress, carefully altered to fit her taller frame. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Liam's kiss held both tenderness and promise. The sale of the Garner homestead was completed shortly after, with a young couple from back east purchasing the property for a fair price. Elizabeth found the parting bittersweet, but her father's words came back to her as she took one last walk through the orchard. Life is for living, Lizzie, not for clinging to what's past. Their journey to Bozeman took 4 days, traveling in a wagon loaded with Elizabeth's belongings. The ranch that awaited them exceeded her expectations, a sprawling property with fertile soil and a sturdy house with plenty of room for the family they both hoped to have. Their first night in their new home, Liam carried Elizabeth across the threshold, both of them laughing at the traditional gesture. "Welcome home, Mrs. Yates," he said, setting her down in the middle of their new parlor. "It's perfect," Elizabeth replied, looking around at the bare walls and empty spaces waiting to be filled with memories. "Though it needs a woman's touch." "That's why I brought you," Liam teased, earning himself a playful swat on the arm. The following spring, Elizabeth planted her first apple trees on their new land. Liam worked alongside her, digging holes and carefully setting each sapling in place. "How long until they bear fruit?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. 3 years, maybe 4, Elizabeth replied. "Good things take time." Liam smiled, pulling her into his arms despite her protests about his dirty hands. "Like us. Exactly like us," she agreed, kissing him in the middle of their growing orchard. Their first child, a son they named James after Elizabeth's father, was born the following winter. He had Liam's storm-gray eyes and Elizabeth's determined chin. 3 years later, they welcomed a daughter, Sarah, who had her mother's golden hair and her father's easy smile. Life was not without challenges. Drought threatened their crops 1 year, and a particularly harsh winter claimed some of their cattle another. But through it all, Elizabeth and Liam faced each obstacle together, their partnership growing stronger with each passing season. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Liam surprised Elizabeth with a special gift, a small wooden chest crafted by the town's carpenter. "What is this?" she asked, running her fingers over the polished surface. "Open it," Liam urged, watching her face expectantly. Inside, Elizabeth found a leather-bound journal. Opening it, she discovered her father's handwriting, his notes on apple growing, weather patterns, and the daily observations of a farmer's life. "How did you?" she began, tears filling her eyes. "I wrote to the couple who bought your father's place," Liam explained. "Asked if they'd found anything he might have left behind. They sent this, said it was in a trunk in the attic." Elizabeth threw her arms around him, overcome with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered against his neck, "for always knowing exactly what I need." Later that night, as they lay together in the darkness of their bedroom, Liam asked, "Are you happy, Elizabeth?" "Truly happy." She propped herself up on one elbow, studying his beloved face in the moonlight streaming through their window. "Happier than I ever imagined possible," she answered truthfully. "Are you?" Liam reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch still sending shivers through her after all these years. "That day in the barn when I saw you cornered by those thieves, I had no idea I was looking at my future, my happiness, my whole world." "You saved me," Elizabeth said softly. "No," Liam corrected, pulling her down for a kiss. "We saved each other." Outside their window, the apple orchard stood in silent testament to their love growing, thriving, bearing fruit season after season. just as their life together continued to bloom in ways neither could have foreseen on that fateful day when a gunshot and 7 simple words changed everything. "You're safe with me."